sit next to you. Ah, no way. It's great. Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Maybe I can move, actually. Yes. 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 Thank you for coming. So you had a walk in this space without really knowing what you were looking at. This is what I've been working on until now in Jan van Eyck. I presented myself the first time here in a 10 minutes presentation saying that I was a performer and a social designer and working around the themes of magic and technology, which is still true. And yeah, being here, I realized that I really wanted to, well, I didn't realize it was impossible for me not to make objects. I was trying to make actions, to make performances again, and I really just wanted to make some creatures come alive. And I was always blocked by the notion of representation in the arts and in design specifically. I was blocked by it because I thought it was a limitation to the message that I wanted to convey. And so I started to look into the history of images, which is representation, and realized, or the idea cementified, that representation is a function as well, and in magical thinking is one of the main functions. And I wanted to read some passages to you of this book, of the history of images, just to let you in the atmosphere of these pages. But I don't like to, so I'm going to be here. So the chapter number 1 is called The Power of Images, Response and Repression. People are sexually aroused by pictures and sculptures. They break pictures and sculptures. They mutilate them, kiss them, cry before them, and go on journeys to them. They are calmed by them, steered by them, and incited to revolt. They give thanks by means of them, expect to be elevated by them, and are moved to the highest levels of empathy and fear. They have always responded in these ways. They still do. They do so in societies all over the world, in East and West, in Africa, America, Asia, and Europe. These are the kinds of response that form the subject of this book, not the intellectual constructions of critics and scholars, or the literate sensitivity of the generally cultured. My concern, which is David Friedberg, is with those responses that are subject to repression because they are too embarrassing, too blatant, too rude, because they make us aware of our kinship with the unlettered, the coarse, the primitive, and because they have psychological roots that we prefer not to acknowledge. So I started to think on the power of images in a way of what response images generate, but also what type of response they generated in history and in the past. And there's multiple images that have a function that goes beyond representation, or in which representation becomes the main one, which is the sacred image, the votive image, the magic image, and they do materialize in objects as well. And so starting from this book, I started to look into the images and the symbols that come directly from my own aesthetic and cultural pool, and the type of magic objects that exist and that are talking about a certain type of representation. So what you saw in this room are different types of magic objects that work as allies by means of representation of an image. So on the wall you have ex votos, which are a Latin name for a votive offering. But in South America, for example, they're called milagros, so miracles. And they're usually given in order to give thanks to a certain entity for something, for a wish that was fulfilled, or to ask for a miracle to happen, or a desire to be fulfilled. And for who didn't look into the legenda there, these ex votos are all referencing certain thematics or characters or entities of the digital world, and things that I see this a bit as my own, a frame that is my own desire to be fulfilled, my own miracles that I seek and that are beyond my control. And there's various representations. So beyond my control, I decided to try to influence, for example, for the scissors cutting the internet cable, I'm referencing the Yemeni rebels group that threatened to cut the internet cables passing under the ocean to pressure on the end of the occupation in Palestine. The hourglass with the WikiLeaks logo is directly referencing the liberation of Julian Assange. The Internet Explorer is it's also symbolizing this old internet and the way of navigating it, so maybe I'm coming back to that. The tree growing from actually that's the Agriport data center, which is the closest to us in Amsterdam. It's coming directly from an article that read that trees around data centers were growing faster because of the heat that the data centers emitted. So this is one type of magic object that I tried to reference, and I see it a bit as conjoined as my attempt to influence a system of infrastructures that I cannot control, but also following the ideal of the ex voto, it's also to give a witness to the other people that will pass through that place of worship where usually they are hung. So that my wish could become someone else's, and then it becomes stronger and stronger the more people wish for the same thing. These three objects are talking about another type of magic ally in the form of object, which is the talisman or the amulet. And they're also talking about, well, these three symbols that you see come from these images. So the Satorarepo is a very old talismanic symbol that was found in pre-Christian ages on top of buildings, and post-Christian on top of cathedral. And it was usually used to shield a building from natural disasters, specifically fire. But also the first one that was found was in Pompeii, which was destroyed by lava from the volcano. So this is the Mano cornuta, which is it's mostly present in the Mediterranean region, and is it's used in many ways, but one of them is to shield away bad intentions and bad luck and the general evil eye complex of envy. which is based on envy. And the third one is the eyes, which comes from these kylix, Greek kylix. And it was used as a cup because then, again, based on the evil eye complex, which is transmitted via the gaze, as someone would drink from the cup, the eyes would cover their eyes, and it would shield them from the bad intentions of someone else sitting at the table with them. Yes. These two other, yes, this is a triangle. I tried to make it into a triangle because I think these objects need to work together. They operate directly on the screen, so on the membrane of the screen, which is the last thing that arrives to users after all this long journey that of infrastructures that happen beyond, like behind the screen. So it's really intended for users, and based also on this book, which talks about what makes an image magic, which is consecration, or like a ritual that embeds the object of life. I decided that the way in which I wanted these objects to get life was with their position, being one in a cathedral, one in a cave, and one in a data center, which for me are all sort of archetypes for repositories of knowledge as locations, but that are also places of worship, in some ways places of mystery and of obscurity. One important thing that I didn't say is that these dates that are on the floor is the date in which I started to play the image on the screen, which is not supposed to keep on going forever. It's a process of burning the picture in the screen. These specific screens, being a plasma and OLEDs, are sensitive to pixel deterioration. So these images are going to be burned in them. So when you turn them off, the image will still appear as its ghost, and that's also part of the consecration of the object, what makes the object magic for me. And yeah, I felt like I said a lot. And maybe these two objects, I leave them to the curiosity of who wants to ask something. So yeah, I would leave it to the questions. Thank you. Yeah. So for me, one of the performances that has been going on is the process of burning the image, which is a lengthy and like time-based process, although it's not visible to everyone. Then I decided for the Jan van Eyck, until I'm here, to use representation also to speak about the locations in which they will be, meaning that there is a piece of limestone becoming the cave, a piece of ventilation system becoming the data center, and a piece of marble, which is actually a grave, becoming the cathedral. But I hope that they will get alive after the Jan van Eyck, and my desire ultimate would be that they are placed in these locations, which brings various levels of performativity. Me bringing those objects there, those places becoming a place for almost pilgrimage. If you want to see the object, you have to direct yourself there. Geographically, it becomes also a triangle on a map of their location, and they get activated in the moment of when they are placed there. So again, this consecration, which I'm not sure yet how it's going to look like. But it will need this moment in order to truly follow the laws of magical thinking, for which only putting eyes on an object does not make it alive, but the intentionality behind it is also one of the most important things. But it's going to come afterwards, for sure. And yeah, also usually I'm the protagonist of these performances, which I would like to step away from for this project, because in this case I become the maker. And actually I have a good piece of this text that speaks about this, and I think answers your question, which is: the artist who is deemed to have successfully conveyed the illusion of living reality may acquire godly or demiurgic status, but the status thus acquired is a metaphorical one. There is no question of magic here. Few people, if any, think that the artist is actually a god or a demiurge. Of course, it may occasionally be believed that a work is generally of divine origin, but that is of a different matter. We know, after all, who they, the gods and the demiurge, really are. When the artist or craftsman makes an image that seems alive, he seems to emulate the god, to be like him in his creative powers. He can make the dead substance alive. But since we know that the artist is not in fact a god, the process of aesthetic distancing and differentiation supervene with some clarity. What then happens when the act of more or less self-conscious differentiation is suspended? What subverts the clues to inert materiality? It is precisely the perception of similarity, and when the final subversion occurs, say the painting in of the eyes, we can no longer deny the life of the image. So I would like to stay the artist in this case, or the craftsman of these objects, and maybe melt into a group or a number of people or a community that would become the consecrators of them. Or maybe not even, maybe it's just their location on a map. But I don't want to be a priestess or a demiurge or a god. Yeah. Does that answer? Okay, good. Cool. Please.
Why can't you be the shaman of this?
I don't want to.
What's the difference between the object here and the object there?
In the building, in the location. I think here is exactly what this text speaks about. So it's truly, I can turn down the data center sound if it helps. Yeah. Oh, nice. What's the difference? Here, they are truly metaphorical. Here, they're like, they're really like the product of a craftsman or an artist trying to produce an image. But the image is not yet sacred. The image is not yet consecrated. So every statue that you have seen in a church that then has cried blood, it was also made by someone in wood or in wax or whatever. And it's not magic just yet there when it's made, but it is using the laws of representation to create a connection to something that already makes the first step in the magic part. And that's why a piece of limestone from the garden can become the cave, and why a piece of ventilation system can become the data center, or why the representation of WikiLeaks logo becomes Julian Assange, all by means of this connection. But the consecration part is what misses for it. And the location is very important for the magic image to exist, because it becomes the place in which that object can become visitable or consulted.
I get that. And I like your concept of other people involved in this process. If you have your objects there, that gives maybe more sacrality to the project. But it seems to me a little bit scientific to reduce the objects only to metaphors, unless what does intention do?
No, there's,
How do we use artists
of course,
only to make those metaphors, right?
there is a level of metaphor that needs to be overcome. And in this case here, until they're in the building in which I made them, and they're still metaphors. And then I really believe in the symbolic values, and this also the process of burning the image is something that gains value the more it goes on, the temporality of it. But it can be overcome, the metaphorical level.
Also here.
I'm not sure. Maybe yes.
No, we talked about it before.
Yeah.
Grace is going to be in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know.
So, I don't know, because those, the objects that are hung there normally in a normal situation are believed in, these people believe in the fact that they hang the object.
Yeah.
That the object will do something for them.
Yeah.
And would that be representational, or would that be, what would that be exactly?
So there's always this tension in the representation versus the actual value of something. For as much as you need to know, I believe in it as much as someone that put up a sign in an actual church. And maybe you don't need to know about me. And so I like to stay in this tension. As someone asked me before, do you actually believe in these magic practices that you use in your practice? No? And I think it's important to state that believing or not in them is not the point, whether you use it in your practice or not. But when I say that this become my personal frame of miracles, wishes that I would like to see fulfilled in the world, it is true. And although it always has the level of the metaphorical, you have to overcome it. This is my proper wish, like this is my action. And these also would need to be placed somewhere to actually work. They need to be placed in a place of worship, or in a place of where votive offerings have been left before. Or I will make a new one for new people to, for a new type of votive place to happen. Yeah. Yes.
But, so, can we overcome the opposition between a space of where the social is making object more than object on the one hand, and on the other hand, the white cube as a space where everything becomes representation and nothing else?
Yeah.
How do we find a way to overcome this opposition and to where the space of the exhibition is not only a space where objects are cut from the ecosystem from which they emerge?
Yeah.
How do you know? Because in the way you're describing it is like
Two separate things.
There is on the one hand there is the society and there is society and art. Basically.
Yeah.
And art in a very like modernist understanding of art as a production of image separated from society. So is there, and I understand the power of it, and you describe it extremely well, but I just, it's a provocation or a question. Do you think it's interesting to think about a third way, or on the other, or is this opposition something that is very important for you to be able to articulate your practice?
No, actually, it's not that. It's not what I articulate my practice around at all. The disconnection between the art from the, because in previous projects, I've read tarot cards inside of museums, and that's already something that feels like a a bereavement. And so it's not something that I necessarily want to like play with. And that's why also I made these plinths, podiums, which become the location. I think that was my way to shorten the distance between the object just being here in a white cube and then they're actually functioning in the proper location. So these for me are not only podiums that I use for the spectator, but I wanted to become the place, the location with the same means of representation. So for me, they can still work here, but they need to travel afterwards. And also how I wanted to arrive in the destination was through the art system, meaning gifting a piece of art to the data center or gifting a piece of art to the cathedral. And I guess that would be my way of entering. I don't think they would accept it if they thought it was an actual magic object, especially if I want the data center to burn down as my ultimate wish. So, yes. Well, yeah, this was a bit more positive of trees growing from the data center, but sure, I wanted to make one when a bomb drops on the ASML in Beethoven, so maybe. Yes.
But I think there were more questions.
Can explain the one in the...
Yes, sorry. So these two, okay, this object is connected to the part of the user, which is the part of the screens, and is unfinished. And it was the first object that I started to make here as my kickstart in the metal workshop. And initially, I wanted it to be a holder for a phone charger that would trigger an electric system that Andre is building in the studio, and that would drop some drops of olive oil in this bowl at the bottom. And this is because I was curious to answer or to investigate if a device can carry the evil eye, and in Italy, to remove the evil eye or to see if you have it, you put a bowl of water on your head and someone drops some olive oil on it, and if the oil disperses, it means you do have the evil eye. And how many drops of olive oil disperse, it's how many people are wishing you envy or like bad intentions. And then you have to throw it on the streets and until the oil is no longer dispersed. Because one thing about it is that it cannot be destroyed, can only be passed on to the next person. So the first person that will walk onto it on the streets will receive it from you, and you will be free from it. So this is one, and the other one is a direct. Actually, it has become this acquasantiera, which is in the church, or a reference to it. So a container of water. And this level at the bottom is connected to a plate that moves like this. And I would like to soak this container in water. The limestone is the rock that is the most present here, as you all know, but it's also the rock that through water forms stalagmites after thousands of years. So ideally, if I leave this outside, after a few thousand years, you will get a little stalagmites at the bottom of the metal plate. And yeah.
Are you going to
Yes. I will finish it.
You can
Yeah, I would like it to be finished. Yeah.
And as far as I understand now, you show the works here in the building.
Um,
You're not going to move them to the specific places that you were talking about? Not anymore?
no, that's why the plinths, the podiums become
Become the location.
the location.
We love.
Yeah. Anyone else? Thank you.
It's because we're sitting like this, we can't see each other. That's the point.
No, it's a good question. Is it burned because it's playing
Yeah.
since the date?
Yeah, since the date
Okay.
the image is playing, and
And you never turn it off?
I never turn it off, and only on the TV you can see that it's already burnt. So when you turn it off, and then there's a light shining behind, then you can see the ghost. Yeah, like here.
Ah, yes.
This is the.
So it's actually really bad for the TV.
Yeah, it's really bad for the screens.
But do modern TVs still do this? Or
No,
is it because this
plasma.
plasma?
Yeah, but it's also why all the computers had a screensaver.
Okay, to like everything.
It moves,
So, yeah.
so it doesn't fit.
And it's